Rain streaked down the cold cement stairs of the subway station, painting dark trails across the worn steps. The air smelled like wet pavement and loneliness. Commuters moved quickly, heads bowed under umbrellas, eyes glued to their phones. No one noticed the woman standing still near the edge. Emily, in her late 30s, looked like someone who had once had everything together. But tonight, her hair clung to her face in wet strands, her coat soaked through, her shoes squishing with every small shift in weight. Her breath came in short, quiet clouds, more from the weight in her chest than the cold in the air. She clutched her purse tightly. Inside, a pink eviction notice folded 3 times, as if smaller paper meant smaller pain. Next to it, her phone blinked silently, no messages, no calls. The voicemail she listened to earlier still echoed in her mind. "We've decided to move forward with another candidate." A sentence she had heard too many times. A rejection she could no longer afford. Her eyes scanned the dark tunnel ahead, watching for the light of the incoming train. She wasn't here to meet anyone. She wasn't going anywhere. She just didn't know where else to be. The ache inside her had gone quiet, and that scared her more than the pain ever did. Emily had always been the strong one, the dependable one, but tonight, something inside her had cracked, silently, like glass under pressure. And in the chaos of the city, with life buzzing around her, no one noticed. She was one breath away, one gust of wind, one unspoken thought from making a decision that couldn't be undone. And then, someone noticed. Emily stood at the very edge now, the yellow line beneath her shoes barely visible in the dim light. The rumble of the oncoming train vibrated through the platform, rising like a distant storm. She didn't flinch, she didn't move, she simply stood, exhausted, invisible in the crowd, lost somewhere between despair and silence. Her hand reached up slowly, trembling as she adjusted her glasses. It wasn't habit, it wasn't to see the approaching train more clearly. It was to hide her eyes, eyes filled with tears she didn't want the world to see. Even now, even here, part of her still cared too much about appearing okay. People bustled behind her, chatting, laughing, rushing. Life kept happening all around her as if nothing was wrong. But everything was wrong. Emily wasn't afraid of dying. That was never the point. The terrifying truth was, she simply didn't know how to live anymore. The rejections, the loneliness, the slow erosion of hope, it all had worn her down until there was nothing left to fight with. As the blur of headlights curved into view from the tunnel, the sound filled her ears, louder, faster, closer. It drowned out the city, the voices, even her thoughts. And in that moment, barely audible over the roar, she whispered a single word. Goodbye, not to anyone in particular. Not to family or friends. Just to the weight she carried. To the world she no longer recognized. To herself. It was the softest goodbye the city never heard. And then, a pause, a presence, a voice, but not from the train. From someone standing right beside her. Someone who said just enough to stop everything. Just as the train's lights burst from the tunnel, casting a silver glow across the platform, a quiet voice broke through the noise. You don't have to do this. Whatever it is, you're stronger than today. Emily froze. The words were simple, gentle, but they hit her like a jolt of electricity. She turned slightly, startled, not just by the voice, but by the fact that it was meant for her. For the first time that day, maybe even that month, someone had seen her. Beside her stood a man in a worn gray coat. He looked older, maybe in his 50s, with tired eyes and kind hands shoved into frayed pockets. He wasn't staring, not pushing, not judging. Just standing there, like he understood. Emily blinked back the tears she had been trying to hide. Her lips parted, but no words came out. What could she say? The train whooshed past them, slowing to a stop. Doors opened. People rushed in and out. But neither of them moved. The man didn't ask her name. He didn't pry. He just stood close enough to let her know she wasn't alone. After a long silence, he said softly, I've been where you are. I know what it feels like when the world turns gray. But it gets better. It does. Emily looked down at her hands, clenched, shaking, cold. And then back at him. For the first time in weeks, something shifted. Not everything, but something. The train pulled away. She didn't get on. Instead, she stepped back. One step, then another. Sometimes, the smallest step away from the edge is the biggest step towards staying alive. And all it takes, is one voice brave enough to speak. The diner was nearly empty, the hum of an old ceiling fan blending with the soft clink of coffee cups and rain tapping the windows. Emily sat across from the stranger in a cracked leather booth, her hands wrapped around a chipped white mug. The coffee inside had long gone cold, but she didn't seem to notice. For a long time, she said nothing. Just stared at the steam curling off his cup like it might carry her thoughts for her. The man didn't press. He simply waited, his eyes steady, patient, familiar with silence. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was quiet, raw. She told him about the layoffs, the eviction, the days that bled together. How each morning started with a whisper of hope and ended in disappointment. She talked about the weight of pretending to be okay for everyone else, even as she unraveled inside. How it felt like no one saw her slipping. He listened, really listened, not the way most people do, waiting for a turn to speak. He nodded now and then, but never interrupted. His presence felt like an anchor. When she finished, there was a long pause. Then, gently, he said, "I know that kind of quiet pain. I slept under bridges once. Lost everything, my job, my family, my pride. But someone sat with me once, like this. Didn't try to fix it. Just saw me. It changed everything." Emily looked up, eyes brimming. He smiled. "Pain doesn't mean you're broken," he said softly. "It means you're healing. It means your heart is still trying." They didn't solve anything that night. No job offers, no miracle answers, but something unspoken passed between them, something stronger than solutions. Hope. And for the first time in a long while, that was enough. A year had passed. The sky above the subway station was bright this time, no rain, no darkness. Just a crisp morning sun breaking through the buildings, casting golden light onto the steps Emily once climbed with her head down and her heart heavy. But today, she moved with purpose. Her coat was new, warm, deep maroon. Her hair was tied back neatly, her steps steady. She still carried her bag close to her chest, but not out of fear. Out of memory, out of honor. She paused at the very same spot where she once stood motionless, breathless, lost. The yellow line was still there, still warning, still waiting. But she was no longer on the edge. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small sticky note. Bright yellow, bold handwriting. She pressed it gently onto the metal railing, smoothing it with care. "To the one standing here, you are stronger than today, E." Emily stepped back and smiled, a quiet, knowing smile. Not because life was suddenly perfect, but because she had made it through one more storm. And because now, she could leave a lighthouse behind for someone else. She never saw that man again. The stranger who spoke when no one else did. But his voice still lived in her, steady and kind. His words had become her own. Every now and then, she returned, not always with a note, but always with gratitude. Because she knew someone else would come. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someone, at their breaking point, would stand in that very spot. And maybe, just maybe, that note would be enough. Enough to make them step back. Enough to help them stay. Enough to believe healing was still possible.